So I will ask a couple of questions. They're very simple questions, just to really get the grasp of what is happening, how your life has changed, and how you felt about. So if you can, maybe just begin with introducing yourself and just saying a couple of words about yourself. What do you do? What is your background? And what made you seek mentoring and coaching in altogether?
Yeah, so my name is Paul. I live in Toronto in Canada, and we've met pretty much 4 years ago. So 2 weeks away from 4 years. The way that I felt Valdez, it's a spiritual story, let's call it this way, because I was feeling like I needed a mentor, a guide. I was reading different spiritual books, and um, I was feeling like there's a gap that needs to be bridged with a teacher, with a guide, and it cannot be bridged in any other way. I felt I needed that personalization. So yeah, I made a prayer for my birthday as a present. I said, "Hey, universe, to I want to find someone who will guide me through this stuff." And then on my birthday, we actually connected in a very, very strange way. So to me, it was like one of the first signs of this kind of spirituality and mystical things working, like the way that we met. And yeah, so it's been four great years. We worked on and off. I did your initial program, and then I think we worked maybe two or three, maybe four more time, four in total max, I think, of you know, like batches of sessions. I think we did another 10 sessions after the program and another 10 and then another five. And every time it was like upgrades for me, in personality and uh in spiritual, like being able to see it in the spiritual perception. I'm not perfect, I'm not some advanced yogi just because we did the coaching sessions and everything, but it really helped. So I'm happy to kind of share more about what some people might find useful in seeing whether this is for them or not.
So what I'm hearing, the one thought that stood out for me, that you read the books, you were looking at seminars, you're looking at some information out there, but still there is this gap that needs to be bridged by the person who has experienced everything and no little twist, because spiritual reality is very precise, very precise thing, and it's very easy to sway away from the main thing if you do not get how these things exactly working. Yeah.
um that's one thing, but for me personally, I think the most, like, the biggest reason for why I was doing the coaching is just also for that inspiration, because when I see that another person has done it, when I see that another person is peaceful, happy, um, I get a lot of energy from that. I get a lot of inspiration. It keeps me on track. This is my personal thing. This is what I really like. I remember coming to the coaching sessions and then just like zooming in and being like hypnotized, and just every word you're saying, I'm really, really following, and I'm inspired because I see that you're speaking from experience and you're living that reality. And I too want to live that reality. So who better to talk to than a person who's speaking about that and nicely breaking it down, and not even only breaking it down, but breaking it down for you in a way that at the time is most relevant for you. So that
Personalization.
um, yeah, personalization. And I mean, yes, there are spiritual books, and people get some level of results just by reading the literature or just through their own commitment, but this is about being effective, as I see it, about using your time and resources here efficiently, and being with a teacher, being with a mentor is much, much easier. You shorten that distance, so for me, it's always like when we work together, it's putting myself in boost mode and just going faster. Because yes, I can do these things on my own as well, but you go through a lot more trial and error by yourself. And it's useful, it's good, but when you're together, you are guided, and you're told like, okay, don't go there. That's what's gonna happen there. Don't go there. You can expect that. Go here, And then it's up to me and my kind of stubbornness and my level of openness to actually whether to take that or not. And
Yeah,
you
indeed.
know, a lot of the times I would take it, a lot of the times I wouldn't. So it's not a perfect road, but I found it very useful.
Indeed, indeed, you're absolutely right, because you can find the ways and try those ways and fail many times, and it's also useful in a way. But having having certain guidance and having certain little twists, little tweaks in a way helps you to maybe avoid too many failures in those experiences. Because some failures are good, some mistakes are good, but when you begin doing them all the time and you don't know what to do, and then you are in such a state where you are hopeless and you don't know what to do, then of course probably that's not very desirable thing that you would like to live through. And then walking with the why in your head and not getting those whys answered.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
So,
another thing that, yeah, I just wanted to add another thing that's kind of popping up for me. What I found useful was working with you like early on. Basically, as soon as I began my spiritual journey like more seriously, I found you and we did that program. It gave me a foundation of all the different aspects that there are to the spiritual reality and how to approach them. And even if I wasn't able to integrate it all at once, when I'm still integrating many of those things, because there's just such a depth to mastery of them, right? It gave me like that pointers, like a navigation system of this, it's like that, and like that, and like that, and like that, like what we were saying. And even reflecting, like, you know, I referred to you two close, like very close people to me, my sister. I even paid for her sessions because I was like, so seeing like, okay, this is so cool, this is going to be a great investment in my sister. And I was able to see how it changed her actually, because she wasn't like me, like seeking spirituality in the same way. She's like a spiritual girl, but not like this kind of like, okay, let's go, let's take this as a project, go forward, right? And it was cool to see how getting this template in her head slowly started to change many things for her, because her perception of the things, the way she started seeing life after that was different, you know, already starting to see it through some of the ideas that you guys were talking about. And the same thing happened with my best friend Ivan. He also worked with you. He did the program, and for years he was hearing from me about how much I was benefiting from it. And at a point, he said, "Okay, I also need help. I need a therapist. And you know what? I'm not gonna go with a therapist. I'm gonna go with Valdis, with your coach." And it's cool because he wasn't really that spiritual of a person. He wasn't that thinking about things in that way. And then last half a year since he did those sessions with you, I see how he changed. Like I see how he started awakening, you know. And it's not an often thing that you see like friends, at least in my circle, go through that stage, you know, going from one stage of human evolution to the next. And it was like, wow, like that really surprised me that he literally made that jump. And I think a lot of it is because there's this absence of these spiritual ideas altogether in the world. You don't see it anywhere unless you start digging into it. This is one big benefit, that you get to be educated as well. You get to receive a quality education. For me, like working with you as always, especially in the beginning when I was just getting this kind of initial understanding of how the things work, it was more of this kind of like, you know, you go to kindergarten, you go to school, you go to high school, you go to university. This was like a part of that. Like I was thinking, why isn't everyone this should be mandatory, you know? This kind of thing should be in all school systems. It's a essential part for educating yourself how to live life, not only how to do the business or how to do this, how to do the worldly things, but these are the most important things, and no one is teaching you about them. So for me, when of course I found you, and then I found that fit was very strong between us, it was a big thing that I would always be grateful for, you know, because I knew the value of that, like what it is to have a person that you can lean on, um, for these kind of existential questions where most people won't have the answer. And another thing that I liked is that our relationship was not like, it's not this kind of formal business relationship, like, you know, I'm your client and I'm paying you money and it's kind of tied up in money. Money is always the last kind of thing, you know. Of course, it's important. This energy exchange has to be there. Like, you're supporting me, and I want to support you as much as possible as well. But our relationship is more like, I feel you're more like maybe a father figure or an uncle or sometimes an older brother. It's a very strong connection, and I think this happened also because how open you were to just like take me with open arms right away and just accept me. I remember even looking at the very first recording. I feel like your attitude towards me didn't really change over the years. Like the way that you saw me initially and the way you just kind of accepted me, took me in right away, it's like stayed same, you know. It was high level immediately and then just stayed. And that to me is like also very healing, actually, this kind of connection, because most relationships you have, it's not like that, you know. It's a lot of tension, a lot of rubbing. But I appreciate the work that you've done in yourself all these years, because then it allows for other people to just come into like and experience a relationship like that. Like, I'm to give some context to the people listening, I'm in psychotherapy program right now, and the very first thing that is being taught to you is that the most important thing for healing is the therapeutic connection. They call it therapeutic connection. Basically, how well connected you and your therapist are, how good of a bond you have. Your therapist can be very skilled, very wise, but if there are things where there's rubbing and tension and, you know, you don't feel safe or you feel judged or things like that, that's it. Therapy is not going to work. And this is what I really liked, you know, working together. It's like, it's one of those, there, I feel like there are certain qualities about you as a mentor guide that are just very, very rare and very, very valuable. So for me, you were like always kind of like a hidden gem, you know. So, and I say it like honestly, I'm not trying to like bump up the thing just for the content or the interview, you know.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for saying those things. And really, I feel that you're not trying to bump it up, but just really, really talking from your experience and talking the way you feel and felt all that. I have this kind of question. Um, what was your expectations before? What was your expectations before, and how then all of that been met? Like,
Um,
the question is like,
yeah.
you maybe had some certain expectations about, or certain understanding about, or certain kind of view about all this connection of coaching or mentoring and working together connection, and how this was different from your expectations.
I didn't really have much expectations because, at least initially coming in, yeah, because I just didn't know. It was my first time working with a coach, and I was more focused on what I want, you know. I want to learn, I want to be more spiritual, I want this opening. Um, I remember when we started going through the program, it felt at some points that it was just a lot. You know, this thing was there, that it was just a lot of content, because there are so many things that we can talk about, and it's so difficult to shove it in like 10, 12 sessions that we did, even though it's a lot, and our sessions were long, you know, like we were
Yes.
doing like 2 hour sessions, right? And still it felt like at the end of it, it was just like too much. So moving forward after, actually, we were doing more targeted things, like let's work through this or let's work through that, through issues as they come up. um
Okay.
yeah, I wouldn't say there were any expectations. Some things that were interesting was, for example, like I always felt like you were a little bit strict sometimes, you know, like let's say I would, yeah, let's say um I'm trying to go into the wrong door, and you can be sometimes strict, like, hey, if you go there, it's not gonna work. And that was something a little bit tricky for me to deal with, because a lot of the times I would react, you know, and it's like, the, as they say, the shit comes out in contrast to the light, you know. So I was feeling like oftentimes I would get triggered because of maybe my own insecurities, because sometimes the teachings would be very powerful and just tricky to implement from the state of consciousness that I was in. And I would make excuses, I would resist, I would kind of. So this part was a tricky territory for us to navigate together, but with experience, we kind of more or less figured out.
And the excuses
And
were
it
never
was
accepted.
challenging. The cool. What?
The excuses were never accepted.
Yeah, the excuses do not get accepted. No, they
Yeah.
don't. Not here.
No, definitely no. Yeah, of course, but not for excuses, because excuses is not just the level of things that you're learning. If you have excuses, simply then your consciousness is not suitable for that experience that you are taking in, because you know immediately you lowering the amplitude of your being, and you are not capable of taking all that experience and all that knowledge and all that spiritual side in, because there is no capacity for it, as long as there are excuses. Hey, but this is just a little detail. Okay, wonderful, wonderful, interesting to hear those things. And of course, you already mentioned, that sometimes material was a little bit kind of hard, not hard, but a lot of this material, because of the blocks of information, and because the information is rather spiritual, and it always has bigger charge to it, has a much more charge to it than just simple conversation, because there's always flow and there is a reality, and reality is
Yes.
always charged, is always different. But that charge, I suppose,
Yeah.
creates the space to open up, to open up to new perspective, to empty your mind, and to actually take it all and trust life, and trust that this information from your subconscious then will enter out into your conscious mind, and will begin creating that new you, because that's what this transformation is about. It's not about how much you know, but it's all about how much you are able to take in, and how much you're able to become that person who would actually live according to those realities. Okay,
Yeah.
so another question probably I would ask you about the application it into your. How do you, how did you took that material? Actually, not took that material. I couldn't probably ask it this way, but how do you see all that information and all that what we worked through being implemented into your life? How easy it is to do that? And is there any challenges for you to actually live that way as this new person?
Um, yeah, it's some things are easy. A lot of things are not easy at all. A lot of things are very challenging. And yeah, of course, everything has a purpose here as well. Coaching is just one piece of the puzzle. Like working with Valdis is one piece of the puzzle, but then you have to go, you have to get your own experience. And yeah, um, for me, the way that I see it is like when we work together, you're planting the seeds a lot of the times. Sometimes you're adding the fertilizer as well, like through the explanations and really like helping speed up the maturity of the insights. But a lot of the times, the actual experience and the lessons, they emerge later down the line. There were times where you said something and then 2, 3 years later, I understood it. And it's happening all the time. So for me, it's like, imagine you're a garden lawn and someone comes and throws the seeds. This is what it is. Working together was like the seeding of the lawn, but it doesn't mean that immediately everything is going to sprout. But a lot of this is there for the long-term potential as well. I'm sure even 10, 20 years down the line, these things are going to be popping up. And yeah, it's not always easy uh, to get the experience because the darkness is also very big. At least in me, I sense that there are a lot of kind of a lot of stuff that needed to be worked on and needs to be worked on. And yeah, and it's not just me. I'll say it like this, maybe a little bit arrogantly, not humbly, but I see that pretty much everyone is facing a lot of challenge, a lot of darkness, a lot of pressures inside, from outside, and it's not easy. It's not easy. There's also this thing where, you know, it has to be a holistic approach. Like I was saying, coaching is one side of thing. One thing I didn't realize in the beginning is that everything matters. The body matters. Like if you exercise or don't exercise, it matters. How you eat matters. What kind of other things that you're doing matters. Because at the end of the day, we're trying to cultivate a certain state of mind, you know, and that state of mind, like, you know, it's especially in the beginning, can be affected by many things. If you don't have that power of thought control, you know.
It's very interesting that you noticed all that because indeed, um, people think that spiritual path or life path, you know, we call it spiritual path, but it's actually just life, just actually being in reality. People think that enough to sit down and to meditate for 10, 15 minutes, enough to do some relaxation exercise, enough to go and do a little bit of yoga, and all is done. But then when you realize what this path is about, remembering also all my experiences about it, that it's constant improvement and constant integration of everything that is, integrating your body, integrating your mind, integrating your life,
Yeah.
your relationships, your health, everything goes together. And you cannot give any excuses. As soon as you give excuses, as soon as you begin saying it's like, no, you know, it's difficult, it stops. And then you are not happy again. You begin searching for more and more and more. Okay, so look, we have maybe a little bit time for maybe one more question because you already
Let's
said,
do
you
it.
know, about the clarity of the conversations and the information, that information sometimes was, you know, like a blocks of information and a lot of it, but then was it easy to understand? Just was it easy to take it
Um,
and understand?
yeah, so one thing that you do very well is you're a very good explainer. Like you take these like high topics and then you really well build out a structure for you to understand. And I remember that was happening with me a lot. You know, that's part of the reason why I was getting like hypnotized, because I was really getting something. And when you start getting something, you really get engaged. So I was really engaged because of that. But I remember you, Ivan, my friend who did the coaching most recently with you, he was saying that, you know, that in the first or second session, you guys were together, he would have to take breaks because his jaw was just like hanging because of he was realizing so many different things. And I think part of why it's easy to realize is because it's a certain skillfulness to take something, to take a higher idea and break it down in a way that makes sense. You know, you can of course talk about say some kind of realization in a sentence, and then the person just leave the person with it. You know, like, I don't know, everything is one, you know, and then the person is like, okay, I don't know what that means, but you could also take that same sentence and give context and give a
Get
certain
it?
understanding so that it will make sense to that person's mind, you know,
Yeah.
because there are just differences in understanding. So from that side, this was really, really nice. But it was also times tricky, the sides of just, even when you explain it so nicely like this, I still don't get it because my mind is not vibrating in that vibration, and the energy doesn't give me entry point into that experience. Even when you dumb it down, you know, well, so to say, not dumb it down, but when you explain it like that, you know.
Okay, Paul. And what would be just the last question really of this interview? Don't want to take it very long, so people would have wouldn't get overwhelmed. What would be the words? What would be suggestions or words to people who are searching for certain growth, for certain spiritual experience, or for some mentor, for someone who could help to lead or lead them towards themselves, towards understanding themselves? What would be your words to those people? What would you say to them?
You have to yeah, you have to reevaluate your priorities in life. You know, you have to sit down and really think what you are doing with your life and how you want to live it and what stands in the first place, or what stands on the top and what stands on the bottom. A lot of the times people's priorities are switched. That what should be in the first place and really a priority because it's going to do really good for them is standing in the last place. And what's standing in the first is superficial things that time and time again create suffering for these people. So this is the main thing, because before you have a want, before you have a desire to change, a motivation to change, you're not going to do anything. Everything is you're going to be faced with a bunch of excuses. Oh, I don't have time. Oh, I don't want to spend money. I don't want this. I don't want that. But when you shift your priorities and you understand why this work is very, very important, perhaps, the most important thing you can do in this lifetime, at least this is how I see it. Then all these excuses, they go to the side, and then you start looking at, for example, this coaching as an investment. Like for me, spending money with Valdis was an investment and a very, very high return investment. I benefited a lot, but I wouldn't be able to consider it that way or look at it that way if I didn't care about growth. And to care about growth, you have to reflect, you have to really see, and you have to sometimes force yourself a little bit to get off your ass and be in this contemplative mode and feel what is important for you. This would be my piece of advice.
Great. Okay, Paul. Thank you. Thank you for your honest answers. They're very interesting. Very interesting to hear this perspective. And just to end this conversation, probably I would like to tell to people that if you are looking for guidance, if you are looking for someone who could help you, or at least to find the way out of the problems maybe you're experiencing, or you want some guidance to understand about life, I call it life audit. I could offer that, auditing your life, to show, to sit down together and to understand where you are in life and what you're doing in life. And the information I will leave after under this video, I'll leave all the information how you can contact me. And thank you, Paul, for your time. Goodbye.
Yeah, thank you, Valdis.